Hey everyone, I hope that you're doing well, that you're staying warm. You stay warm tonight when a new wave of cold and storms comes through. It's quite something. We had such nice weather last week, unseasonably nice, but now we're back into winter. So, um, again, I'm hoping the best for all of you. I just wanted to make some comments on the work that we were doing, or are doing, I should say, for Unit 4. Right now, we're halfway through Unit 4. So last week we did the first week's activities where we read the other Patrick Real article about secondary sources. We also watched a couple of videos about what secondary sources are and what it means to evaluate them from a kind of scholarly analytic perspective. We started that, of course, last week in Unit 3, and so the first assignment that you had was to write a post to Medium reflecting on the work that you did on close reading. So you either had to choose the Nash article or the Lovell article for the last assignment last week in Unit 3 and annotate it using Hypothesis. Thank you so much for your feedback and thoughts on Hypothesis as a platform and a tool. I agree with most of you that it does have a lot of value in terms of annotations. I know that it doesn't seem to be quite as much a social annotation tool. But there were several of you who said you benefited from reading each other's ideas about the article that you were reading because that helped you to think differently, at least, about how to apply the different reading strategies that we were learning about. I also recognize that many of us emphasized the learning strategy of skimming and rereading. That's a great way to go in terms of trying to get a big overview of what's going on in the article or book or primary source document that you're going to be reading before going back to it. Also, by skimming, you can start to formulate some questions that you'll want to answer as you do a little bit more in-depth reading. Of course, this is college and this is just one of your classes, so you won't have time to read and read and reread. But it is important to realize that close reading is a skill that we need to practice and think about on an ongoing basis. So I enjoyed reading your thoughts. I posted some comments back to you all on Medium. Please respond to me with any thoughts or ideas that you have there. If you're still a little confused about Medium or how to post there or how to make sure that your work is published, please reach out and let me know so that I can make sure everybody's able to complete the work that we're doing for the class. Also, if you're still confused about where to find things, all of the details about what we're doing are in the unit narratives that are on Medium. Essentially, that's what we're using instead of a textbook. We're reading through the unit narratives and working through the assignments that are there. And so again, if you have questions about that or not sure, please let me know. This week, we will be using Hypothesis again, for better or worse, as I know there were some ideas about ways it's problematic. I'm not going to change the assignment such that you're required to respond to each other. That was a suggestion that came up, and I'm still thinking about it. I understand why it's important. If the goal is merely just to get you to respond to each other, that will get there. But I'm thinking about the kinds of responses that we have. And so I wanted to point out that responses to each other will count as your posts. So that's to say, if you haven't posted like one of your own original annotations, or if you were going to annotate the same section that someone else did, you can just respond to them, and that will count as you having done the assignment, and it will start more of a conversation in Hypothesis about that particular point in the reading. Hopefully that makes sense, because I think I'm assuming something, but I'm assuming that folks think that you need to post your own kind of original annotations for them to count for the assignment. That's not necessarily true, because even with doing that, many of you highlighted and commented on the same sections of the reading. So it's okay, especially in those cases, to just respond to the person who's already highlighted and annotated that section to add your comments, because that's the way that we can build on each other's ideas and push our thinking about how to read critically even deeper. So this week we're going to look at a couple of articles. You'll choose one or the other again, based on interest, about either thinking about historiography, and there's an explanation of that in the unit narrative for Unit 4, or thinking about conceptual frameworks. And so the conceptual framework article is one that I wrote and published in the New Mexico Historical Review a few years ago, in which I use the conceptual framework of the place myth to talk about the history of Columbus, New Mexico. My research is Columbus, New Mexico, so that's why it keeps popping up. Hopefully it's something that can be interesting to you as well. Something that some of you pointed out in your comments about close reading is that it's important to try to find aspects of the reading that are interesting to you, because finding an interest, sparking some sort of engagement or connection, is a way that you can also engage with the text. Close reading isn't just about sort of clinical analysis, but it's also about curiosity, and it's about trying to discover what it is that the author was trying to get across, but also what it is that we can learn about this particular point in history from this article or this book or this podcast. You're also going to have a podcast assignment, but you won't be using Hypothesis with that this week. You'll be using Twitter. So that's where we're headed. Again, please let me know if you have questions or concerns or if you need anything. I'm always happy to help. And I hope that you're having a good cold Monday.